Hey guys, welcome to Solo ReacTalk. Today I'm going to be reacting to The Legacy of Kain, Ariel, a character study by Strictly Fantasy. If you want to check out my previous reactions to other Legacy of Kain videos, remember the playlist card will be at the top. Just click on it and be able to access them. Yes, okay, let's start. 3, 2, 1. Oh. Let's try that again. 3, 2, 1, go.
What are you, little soul? Another of Kain's creatures come to taunt this bound spectre.
I did not intend to disturb your rest.
Rest. A body is needed for sleep. Flesh and bones are required to recline. No, child. All I may do is watch and remember, ceaselessly conscious as this wretched world's history unfurls. Ghastly past, insufferable future, are they one and the same? Am I always here?
Once an impressive sorceress, Ariel oversaw the Circle of Nine as Balance Guardian. The role of Balance Guardian was the most important.
She was so beautiful. Oh my gosh. And now when you see her, okay.
Important duty out of the 9 key positions. For he or she who is called upon to serve the Pillar of Balance is handed a momentous task of preserving the life of the world. They are to ensure no corrupting influences infiltrate their ranks or taint their peers. If any nefarious force happens to penetrate the circle, then they are expunged by the Balance Guardian.
Expunged as in killed? You guys, wow.
Ariel was born at some point in Nosgoth's early past. Although her exact date of birth is unclear, we can guess she is no older than 500 years at the time of Blood Omen 1. This is because we know that during Vorador's onslaught against the Sarafan, he murdered a human Balance Guardian that came before Ariel. Whether Ariel was born as the direct successor to this Guardian, or years later, following the death of another Guardian, is left to speculation. Nevertheless, Ariel was summoned, and the powers afforded by her role gifted to her a certain immortality, a longevity that allowed her to live for centuries. It is said that her magic influenced the regulation of other magic in Nosgoth, and that her prowess for sorcery was matched only by her beauty. She had captured the heart of her fellow guardian Nutraptor the Mentalist, and the two
Wait, isn't he the one that she, had relations with? Like they were boyfriend and girlfriend? Or husband and wife? Oh, okay. Hey, you love who you love. I'm not gonna judge.
embarked on a romantic relationship, which tragically ended when Ariel was cut down. The cult of Hashar-Gig seduced and manipulated the circle behind the scenes. They sought to overthrow the pillars, and achieved this by taking possession of the Death Guardian Mortanius, using his body as a means to murder Ariel. Given the injuries sustained to her head, she was most likely stabbed in the eye, with half her face stripped off, exposing her skull. The dark entity who had orchestrated Ariel's death had found a perfect opportunity to bring down the pillars, by ruining the controversial love affair between the two guardians. It saw the relationship between Ariel and Nutraptor as a chance to poison and devastate the circle. Each of the 9 are symbiotically bound to one another. When Nutraptor discovered her corpse, he was so overcome with grief and plagued by suspicions of treachery from within the circle, he plunged into a madness that unleashed a telepathic shockwave which tainted each of the other guardians with his derangement. Now corrupted, the sorcerers turned their powers to dark purposes, and the pillars, absorbing the circle's corruption, fell into utter decay. Into this poisoned world Kain was born, Ariel's successor as Balance Guardian, he too forsaken and infected by the same spiritual disease.
I'm just wondering about the successors, do they appear as soon as the current Guardian is dead? So when Ariel died, right, is that the exact moment when Kain was born into the world and he became the new successor to the Pillar of Balance? Like how they do it in Avatar Aang, or Avatar The Legend of Korra, As soon as one avatar dies, the next avatar is born almost immediately. Or, whichever child, wherever in the world, whichever element is next, that child will become the avatar. Is it something like that with the pillars, the guardian pillars?
That overwhelmed the circle, thus rendering him incapable of fulfilling his duties. Ariel's death did not spell her end, however, as her disembodied spirit became tethered to the pillars. Usually, when a balanced guardian dies, their soul briefly returns to their pillar before being spun back into the wheel of fate to undergo the natural cycle of reincarnation into this world. However, the corruption of the pillars had frozen this process for Ariel, and she was doomed to be trapped here until balance was at last restored. Her fate, as well as the fate of all Nosgoth, rested in Kain's hands. Ariel had pinned all her hopes on her successor, guiding him to assassinate the Pillar Guardians. In an ironic twist of fate, she made her lover Nutraptor Kain's first kill, and although it pained her to command Kain to murder the man she loved, she knew the circle needed to be cleansed. Each time Kain returned to the Pillar,
she still had that responsibility as the guardian of balance, the pillar of balance. She still had that responsibility, so yeah.
Ariel was on hand to offer advice to the young vampire about the upcoming guardians he would face, all whilst keeping him ignorant of his true role as Balance Guardian. She believed, rather naively, that when all was said and done, he would nobly sacrifice himself to restore the pillars, and thus bring the world back from ruin. Deep down, however, she suspected Kain would reject this outcome, which is probably why she was not entirely honest with him from the start. In Kain's first conversation with her, she suggests that assassinating the members of the Circle will offer him peace. Kain thought this to mean that he might potentially find a cure for his vampirism, without realizing that the peace Ariel offers is death. When the time came for Kain to make his terrible decision, Ariel paid the price for her manipulation. From the moment Kain refused to sacrifice himself, Ariel despised him, for his choice meant that she was now damned to spend the rest of eternity haunting the fallen pillars she once served.
I mean, imagine that. You're just floating around the pillars for all eternity, just watching everything else around you grow old, and new things growing into existence, and, just seeing night and day, rain and snow and people and everything just passing you by. And there's nothing you can do. You're just there at the pillars, watching it all happen. I'd go mad.
Following this, she fell into a deep despair, becoming vengeful, blaming Kain for her everlasting torment. Prior to the events of the first Soul Reaver, such was her depression that she came to accept the inevitable fact that she would be bound to the pillars forever, referring to them both as her home and prison.
How have you come to haunt these pillars?
Kain refused the sacrifice. The Pillar of Balance, corrupted to its core, stands as a monument to his blind ambition. Now these pillars serve only to bind me here, my prison and eternal home, thanks to the avarice of your master, Kain.
That bastard can claim no allegiance from me.
Then we share a common foe, Raziel. Return here when you have need. Ariel remembers what others have forgotten.
I find it amusing that Ariel claims to remember what others have forgotten, but doesn't seem to recall her earlier meetings with Raziel in the distant past. I mean, from her perspective, she first met him in Defiance, just before the collapse, and then in Soul Reaver 2 quite some time later, whereas, from Raziel's perspective, he meets her for the first time in the distant future here, in Soul Reaver 1. Clearly, Raziel meeting Ariel out of chronological order complicates matters, and it is unclear how much Ariel does in fact remember of her prior meetings with the Wraith. Perhaps her long imprisonment has affected her memory, but what I chalk it up to is the shifting of timelines. When Raziel comes across Ariel in the Sanctuary of the Clans, we are still in the second timeline, which as we know is altered by Raziel when he refuses to kill Kain in William's chapel. This paradox causes a shift from Timeline 2 to Timeline 3, leading to Raziel threatening Mobius to send him back to the past so that he can meet the ancient vampire Janos Audrin. Of course, in this third timeline, Mobius instead propels Raziel into the future so that he can see the wasteland Kain created as a result of his selfish decision, and equally deepen his resolve to find a way back to Janos' time. It is in this period where he meets an earlier version of Ariel, but my theory is that this meeting might not have happened at all if Raziel did end up killing Kain as he was originally supposed to. If Kain died here, like Mobius had intended, then I see little point in the time streamer sending Raziel forward in time, and could have just sent him back into the distant past, so that he can unintentionally lead the Seraphim to Janos, witness the murder of the ancient vampire, and then pursue the Seraphim back to their stronghold, before being imprisoned by the Reaver. Likewise, this would explain how the Ariel we see in Soul Reaver 1 has no memory of Raziel from Defiance, because of the differences between Timeline 2 and Defiance's Timeline 4. If you have another theory, let me know down in the comments. But
yeah, me and time theories we're not best friends, so I'm gonna go with yours, strictly fantasy. I'm gonna go with your hypothesis on this. Yeah,
to me this is the most logical, and I prefer it to Ariel having memory loss due to the eons of long captivity. Whether any interaction between Ariel and Kain took place during the rise and fall of Kain's empire is
Kain's palace. He built his palace around the 9 pillars, because I can see here in this cinematic, it seems like the pillars are in some sort of huge dome covered area. So I'm assuming that this is Kain's palace, because I can see him there, sitting on his throne, and the pillar of balance is right behind him. So in the past, how can I say this? Right. In the past, before Kain built his empire, the pillars were, outside. There wasn't any kind of dome structure covering them up. They were just outside in the forests or something like that. And the guardians themselves, I don't know where did they stay exactly. Were they also there just around the pillars, or did they have their own gathering point, like a castle or a mansion where they would all just join up and discuss about whatever they need to discuss about? I'm not entirely sure about that, but yeah, it's quite interesting.
Never touched upon. However, as she was bound to the pillars in the Sanctuary of the Clans, which Kain had converted into his throne room, there's a decent chance that at some point, words may have passed between the two. There has been speculation among some fans that Ariel's musings and troubled recollections may have been what inspired Kain to find a third way out of the dilemma orchestrated for him, and thus motivated Kain to cast Raziel into the abyss and lure him into the past. Either way, it is clear that Ariel did at least have some bitter exchanges with Kain's servants, given her line to Raziel about the tyrant's creatures taunting her. Originally, in the first Soul Reaver storyline, Ariel was intended to have died in a similar manner to the way shown in Defiance, before that content was cut and the story revised. Once Raziel confronted Kain in his mountain retreat, Ariel would advise him that the only way to kill the tyrant is to strike her down with the Wraith Blade. Raziel would then gain the soul of the former Balanced Guardian, enabling him to do just that. Ariel's sacrifice, as shown in the Chronoplast visions in Soul Reaver, was eventually played out for real, but in a far less confrontational manner in Defiance's Spirit Forge. At the climax of Defiance, when Raziel activates the Spirit Forge, the souls of all the Balanced Guardians are called upon for the final baptism of the Wraith Blade. Ariel is summoned and appears before Raziel as the manifestation of the former Balanced Guardians. No longer constrained by her personal vendetta against Kain, the veil is lifted from her eyes, and she now understands what needs to happen in order to restore balance. She explains to Raziel that the sword must be rendered pure by spirit, and instead of striking her down, like he does in the cut version of Soul Reaver 1, Raziel gently reaches out and touches her hand. Ariel's soul is drawn into the Wraith Blade, purifying it and releasing her following centuries of torment. When examining Ariel's final scene, the way I interpret it is her being summoned from beyond the Soul Reaver era by the activation of the Spirit Forge to be brought back to the Blood Omen period of Nosgoth's history. This way, the timeline remains intact, with her meetings with Raziel in Soul Reaver 1 and 2 still taking place, which cannot otherwise occur if the younger, native Blood Omen era Ariel is the one that is restored. Before finishing this video, I want to pay tribute to Ariel's voice actor Anna Gunn, who would go on to portray Skylar, Walter White's wife, in one of the greatest TV shows of all time, Breaking Bad. Anna Gunn has portrayed Ariel in every game she features in since the beginning, and like the other voice actors, has brought an extraordinary level of talent to this series, and their voice work should never be forgotten. If you enjoyed this look into Ariel's character, please leave a like, and for more Legacy of Kain content, do subscribe. Now allow me to leave you with some words from our fallen balanced guardian, which carry wisdom for those who, like Raziel, are sometimes driven by anger.
Be wary, Raziel. Those blind with rage are by destiny ensnared.
Those blind by rage are by destiny ensnared. Okay. Alright, Ariel. Yes, guys, that was the Legacy of Kain Ariel, a character study by Strictly Fantasy. Yes, Ariel, I wouldn't want to, like, her life was difficult, really. She was murdered and her soul is trapped on the 9 pillars, on the pillar of balance. She's there until the next guardian can be chosen or can be born into the world, and for him or for her to sacrifice their lives for her soul to be free, as well as the rest of the other corrupted guardians' souls also to be free. Yeah, like, how many years again? 500 years. She's been existing for at least 500 years, and that's before she died. And now when she died, how many years have been going, past her already? Like 1,000, 2,000 years? I'm not entirely sure. But yeah, she has been here for a very long time, and she's been hovering over those pillars, for a very long time. I'm just wondering the kind of conversations she had with Kain, because Kain built his throne room around the 9 pillars. So he's sitting there in the throne room, and Ariel is probably there hovering around her, around him. I don't know if anyone else could see Ariel. I think maybe it's only Kain who could actually see Ariel, and maybe those that she allows, to see her. I think. I don't know. I'm not sure. I'm just kind of speculating on that maybe nobody could actually see her, only Kain could see her, and probably anyone she allowed could see her. But yeah, she had an unfortunate end, a very painful end, a very violent end. Her face, and she was also filled with a lot of pain and a lot of anger, and she tried her best to control the situation in terms of trying to make sure that the new guardian of balance will achieve her goals, in terms of killing the current guardians, and then also having Kain kill himself. But he never did that. He decided not to do that. He would want to continue his vampiric race, as well as create an empire for himself. So yeah, she was very spiteful, probably very angry, disappointed, frustrated, and there was just nothing that she could do about it. She would continue to hover around those pillars for almost all eternity. That's what it seems like. And yeah, luckily she found a way to finally let go of all of that pain, all of that suffering she had, and even have her soul being consumed by the Soul Reaver. And yeah, it's good. I wonder, her storyline is done now, right? Like, she's not gonna come back due to some other situation. She's done now. I don't think I don't know about any new games for the Legacy of Kain, but I'm just assuming from the last installments of the game, her storyline has come to an end. And yeah, I think that would be good. That would be best. Guys, yeah, that's it. That's it for today. If you like the video, remember to give me a like, comment, and subscribe to my channel. Click on the notification bell if you want to be up to date with my latest videos, and I will see you next time. Okay? Bye-bye.